fill my glass for me with the wine you gave Jesus that set him free after 3 days in the ground.
Welcome to a Center for Enlightenment production. I'm your host, Bartholomew. We'll be discussing entheogens, religion, and history tonight. And this is a question and answer series brought up particularly because a fellow researcher went about asking the critical questions of what does the Christian community have against psilocybin and entheogenic medicines in general. So I'll be reading the reasons that these things are outlawed for Christians, and then I'll be giving my answer just following that. So here we go. The first one. Entheogens are not part of the Christian tradition. This is supported by almost all Christian groups and the vast majority of people I know. I understand that your own research indicates that they may have been at some time, but I urge you to look more closely at reliable sources. This is a point that I have never deviated from, says the author. There are too many sources that indicate that the Eucharist was in the beginning bread and wine that was changed into the body and blood of Christ. No early church father references anything that can be perceived as a psychedelic substance apart from their critique of pagan practices. Well, in response to that, I think we need to define entheogen. Entheogen means to bring up or to well up within you based on any plant, fungus, or any substance that those funguses, substances, or plants cause a welling up of God with either a small g or a capital G within the person who consumes these medicines. So that's what entheogen is defined as, to bring up the divine within oneself, causing the divine to rise up, to a spirit to be around the person. And I say little g because sometimes that's where a psychedelic and entheogen will take a person. And I say capital G because certainly God is all around us all the time. And a person with a pure heart, with pure intentions, in a good setting, I think you can contact God when you don't take substances. So if you do take them, those shields, those barriers, those buffers, those neurons that are just kind of firing with 5% of your brain power can exceed that greatly. And you can, and I have had the experience of, wow, there is a presence listening to my inner thoughts. And when I think something that it likes, scripturally, it works with God, it works with the Bible, boom, the house cracks, or the flame of the candle flickers intensely, and I feel this relationship. I know that, as David said, you're the one who searches my heart and my mind. I know that this is a reality. I have got no proof that I can throw through this video to, but there's something for knowledge that is gained by experience. I think Paul testifies to that too. You show me your faith based on your belief, and I'll show you my faith based on all the proofs that he's already proved to me. Okay, so let's go by that. We got the definition, and then we say, well, based on this definition, essentially the Christian communion as it is now is supposed to be entheogenic. When you take the body and the blood of God, Christ, this bread wafer and this cup of wine or grape juice as it is commonly today, you're supposed to be taking the communion wafer. You're supposed to be having a communion with God. Well, the problem with that is that most people don't have that experience, and they tell you it's your own fault. You're guilty of not believing hard enough, and that's why you lack the communion with God. But if you do your research, you'll find out that the communion wafer, the Eucharist, was not created until the 16th century. And that's when the Catholic Church, basically through brutality and even murder, enforced the bread and wine communion, the transubstantiation. So what did they do for the first 1,500 years as Christians? I know what they did. I have the art history. I have the archaeology. I know. I could see the mushroom. But most people don't know that it wasn't until the 16th century that they created the transubstantiation. And that transubstantiation is a set of words said in Latin, which is used by the Greek Orthodox, no doubt, and certainly the Catholic Church, to turn the bread into the body of Christ, to transubstantiate it, to change it from bread into the essence of Christ. That's not necessary with a unleavened bread which rises from the ground like manna, but has remained hidden from humanity for the better part of humanity's existence, which is certainly greater than 6,000 years. It's a yeastless bread that rises from the ground. The psilocybin mushroom. Okay, so we've got the transubstantiation. What did they do for the first 1,500 years? And what this is almost a fulfilling of the passage in the Bible which says, when you see standing in a place where it ought not to be, the essence which causes the abomination, which causes desolation, then flee to the mountains. Well, to me, I mean, there's probably 6 different interpretations of that, but to me that says, when you see a fake sacrament, in the sense of this compared to a mushroom is fake. Now it's not, because people believe it's the body of Christ. I think God judges you based on where you're at, and I think that there is communion there. That's fine. I'm open to that. I see that that's how God works. However, I think what that passage is about the substituting of the real sacrament for this fake sacrament. So when did that happen? Well, it wasn't until the 6th century, so 600 years after Christ, 500, that the Catholic Church made an ordinance that said that the Christians could no longer keep their communion wafer a secret. Up until that point, the Christians were a mystery school. They were called the Friendly Open Society. But there was something really open about it. No newbie, no young Christian, no Christian who'd been baptized in the water but not yet in the Spirit was allowed to see the sacrament. And that's why that Christian church was just growing so massively, because here they had the psilocybin mushroom, which could be ground up into a flour, put into any kind of form you want, and they served it to these neophytes, and these neophytes received this communion wafer, and then lo and behold, they felt a holy opening within the vestige of their temple, within their body. They had passed this key which unlocks the kingdom's doors within you. The pupils dilated, and we know Jesus talked a ton about the pupils. He said, where the pupil is narrow, there is not much light that enters, and so there's darkness. But when the pupil is open, then you can see, then you have light. So the dilation of the pupil is also echoed in it is marvelous in our eyes, the capstone that the builders have rejected. The builders of society, those morning glory users, the acid users, the Amanita muscaria users, and you later see this in the Catholic Church, it's up in the tops of the apex of the church. You'll see Amanita muscaria mushrooms up there, tree of knowledge. These builders didn't like psilocybin because psilocybin was all about your relationship to the God who is God. And you're not going to take advantage of your neighbor. You're not going to be a pharaoh. You're not going to be an emperor declaring yourself a God on earth if you know God and you know that you're just a man. And he'll humble you just like he did Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar said, look at all these things I've done. And suddenly he's eating grass for 7 years.